Hi everyone, I'm Kim. Welcome to my channel again. Before I start, I wanted to wish everyone a better speech and hearing month. And what this means is that this month, speech therapists and audiologists come together to try to inform our community about resources. And the main reason why we do this is because 64% of parents don't realize there's an issue going on with their child. And that's a really high number. And most of it is because parents have no idea that these are delays in their child. We are really good resources to have around your community. For the most part, the way that you can find us is through a referral through your doctor or calling the phone number behind your insurance card to finding who is closest to you. So I hope this helps, and I hope that you guys are out there trying to find someone to evaluate your child, because the longer you wait to evaluate your child, the more expensive it's going to be for your insurance and for you guys to try to treat the issue. Now we're gonna jump into why I really made this video, and it was for kids that are 12 to 2 years. So that we call this preschool age because a child is not in school yet. The sounds that a child should be saying at that point. So as a speech therapist, we evaluate all areas of language, and that also includes the sounds that a child is making, for example, a P or an R or an L. But today I'm going to focus only on the sounds. So what are the some sounds that a child should say? So let's go back into when a child is a baby. A child should be babbling because of all the sounds they're hearing. So a lot of vowel sounds, a lot of long sounds you're listening. Maybe you're thinking back and you think about that time where your child was babbling and you're telling him, and then what else? Keep going. And it feels like you're having a conversation even though he's not saying real words. That is all appropriate. Now, a child reaches 12 months, child should still be babbling, but this is where they start babbling with real consonant sounds. So what are the first consonants that a child should be saying? So this is from, again, 12 months to 2 years. The first sounds that we typically hear, or the first words that we typically hear, is mama, or papa, or ball. Now, if you think about all those sounds, what is the commonality that they have? That means that all these sounds were made with the lips. So the three sounds that a child should be saying at the beginning is a B, B, a P, P, and an M. So what if you say, oh my gosh, my child's first words were cookie? It's okay. That just means that your child can produce other sounds, and that is still typical. This is not black and white. There's a lot of gray area when we talk about speech sounds, because some kids are able to say a sound that typically a kid that age can't say, and that's okay. This is just for children that you still don't really feel that you're understanding them, and you're wondering if you're needing to have him be evaluated by a speech therapist. So those are the three typical sounds that you hear. Now, what do we hear? What are some other sounds that you should be hearing? The H, the W, N sound also, that's another one that you should be saying. And so, again, these are from 1 year to 2 years, 12 months to 24 months. These are the typical sounds that you should be saying. Now, for a 2 to 3 year old, what sound should this child be saying? They should be saying the K, the G, the D, the T, and the sound. For example, in running, you hear that NG sound, right? The NG sound has an sound. And so those are the typical sounds that a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old should be saying. Again, if your 3-year-old is saying R's and L's, way to go. They're doing a good job, but this is for children that you are not understanding. So what happens if you're listening to this video and you're saying, oh my gosh, my child can't say all these sounds? and I typically can't understand him more than 50% of the time or more than 60% of the time, I suggest that you talk to your doctor and have them refer you to a speech therapist. And so they're going to do a test and they're going to tell you specifically what sounds your child is saying. If you're listening to me and you're like, all right, Kim, now what? I'm waiting for this evaluation. What should I be doing in the meantime? So in the meantime, make sure that your child is making that eye contact at you. For example, if you go to a playground and he sees a bird and you say, that's right, baby, that's a bird. And the child repeats back, bird. Think, did he look at me? Because that didn't sound like the word bird. That sounded like something completely different. That sounded like turd, right? And that can happen because, think about it, b and t, a b and a t sound very similar. But if I'm not looking and the child is looking down or he's looking at the bird, he's gonna hear turd. Remember, these children are learning a new language for the very first time, and there can be a lot of confusion, especially if they're not making that eye contact. So make sure that you work on that. And eye contact becomes very important later because it helps when you are taking turns, right? They're looking at you, listening, absorbing all of that vocabulary, and when it's their turn, they're going to repeat back what you said. And this is why making eye contact is very important, because later it helps with making sure that a child is taking turns and doing that joint attention, which is like looking back and looking at you, looking back and looking at you, maybe when you're coloring or maybe when you're playing some type of game with them in the home. Now, if you're thinking, well, my child is bilingual, what now, right? It's very dependent on the language that their second language that they're learning or their first language that they're learning. So, for example, and I'm going to say this because I'm bilingual and I know Spanish. That was my first language. I'm sure some of you guys have noticed in some of the words that I say in my accent. But the Spanish alphabet has more sounds than the English alphabet. You know, one of the sounds that maybe some of you might know is the ñ, right? For example, with año means year, or baño means bath. That ñ sound is non-existent in English. And so these are more sounds that a child needs to be learning that typically they won't be learning if they're learning English. What sounds should a child be saying before 3? If they're Spanish speakers, P, B, T, K, F. That's a sound that is not typical for an English speaker at that age. The W also, and the ch, right? So where do we hear the ch? For example, in churro, right? Or mancha. So those are other sounds that a child should be saying if they're Spanish speakers. So it's very, very different from, just a monolingual child. And there's a lot of resources out there that maybe you guys have looked at. And one of the ones that I saw, I kind of found this on Pinterest. If you guys know who made this, let me know so I can give them credit. I did not make this. This is something that I found, but I thought it was really cool. It tells you the ages and what sounds should your child be saying in every age. And that's very, very helpful because you can kind of take note and write down all the words that your child is saying and all the words that your child is not saying that have these sounds at this age. Now, if you're looking at this video and you have other children and you're starting to realize, oh my goodness, my older child, I still don't understand him. Kimberly, at what age should a child be 100% intelligible, meaning that you understand him 100%? At age 8. So if your child is older than that and you're still having a really hard time, he's not saying his R's or L's. We think about those sounds typically when a child needs speech therapy. Go ahead and ask for that referral. Go ahead and get your child in to be seen. And I hope this helps, and I hope you continue to have a better speech and hearing month.